Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Innes MacLeod.
Good afternoon and welcome back, or welcome for the first time, to Innotribe. I'm delighted to present our first Sensemaker of the week. Rapid change is driving new approaches to collaboration across the financial industry. Financial institutions are looking for new business models enabled by things such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, and AI. We've partnered with IBM Research to delve deeper into the topics of each day in these Sensemaker sessions. And it's my pleasure to introduce the first session of the week. Charity Wayua is a research manager at IBM Research Africa, and her team is focused on looking to develop commercially viable technologies that fundamentally transform the way that governments operate and deliver services to their citizens. She holds a PhD in chemistry from Purdue, a bachelor's from Xavier, and she's here to talk to us all about decentralization as a new form of trust. Please give a warm welcome to Charity Wayua.
Good afternoon and thank you. The best and perhaps most fun part of being a researcher is that I get to spend my days reimagining what the future could look like and then making it happen. What this means is I am tasked with detecting emerging trends, challenges, and opportunities in the markets in which we operate at IBM, and then working alongside our teams of very talented scientists, engineers, designers, we start to develop and test viable solutions that will address those challenges. One of the shifts that we are seeing today in the industries in which we work in is a shift from centralized to decentralized ecosystems. What this means is the traditional models where we have an anchor player who sort of attracts a network of participants in traditional or in to participate in business transactions, and who is the anchor player. We have, what we are seeing is a shift from centralized to decentralized models. And what we see here on the screen is one example of that, where we have an anchor player who starts to attract the participation of a large number of actors in business transactions. And then in these transactions, the anchor player basically plays a role of intermediation in the transactions. They also play the role of guaranteeing transactions and enforcing compliance. So the transactions that occur in this kind of an ecosystem are basically trusted transactions guaranteed by the anchor player. Now, as the number of players and interactions increase in the ecosystem, we start to see a decentralization of sorts. And this decentralization is driven by the fact that as the number of interactions, the number of ecosystem players increase, the risk that is associated with centralizing the guarantee of the integrity of transactions begins to increase. And secondly, we also start to see the time and cost for the reconciliation of transactions go up. Therefore, we start to see partners in an ecosystem trying to decentralize and interact in more in a system like the one you see on my right. Now, for us to be able to enable this new level of collaboration, we require a technology that is able to engender the kind of trust that was brought about by the central player in the centralized systems. Thankfully, blockchain presents us with this opportunity. At IBM, we are utilizing the Hyperledger Fabric as the foundation for IBM's blockchain platform. It's led by the Linux Foundation, and at IBM, along with over 180 partners, are collaborating to be able to use this open source, open standards, and open governance effort that begins to enhance cross-industry blockchain technologies for both business and government. Now, I know most of you have heard about blockchain, and so I will not bore you with the details or the basics of blockchain. I'm sure many of you are perhaps experts. What I would like to spend some time is to highlight some fundamental requirements for blockchain for business. And I believe these are the fundamental requirements for trust that are enabling this new decentralized ecosystems we are beginning to see. The three that I like to think about are accountability, privacy, and security. And I'm going to go into a little bit of detail to highlight for you how these play out in some examples at IBM that we're working on. Now, what do I mean by accountability? I think about accountability as ensuring that participants in a network and the data they're transacting on are both known and trusted. The participants in our networks are not anonymous. They're identified by membership keys. And the data that they're able to transact on, excuse me, and the data they're transacting on is also known. Now, it's recorded in an immutable ledger, and therefore this means that no one is able to tamper with that data without the knowledge of everyone in the network. Now, with this accountability of both the participants and the data that's being transacted on in the network, we're able to ensure that the network is auditable. And this is particularly important for members to be able to be audited and to adhere to regulations such as GDPR and HIPAA, which are impacting the work that we do in business today. The second component that I would like to discuss after accountability is privacy. Now, I started by saying that the members participating in the network need to be known, right? The second component that's required for business is that the transactions that they're participating in, the transactions themselves, as well as the data, those need to be private. The Hyperledger fabric ensures that any of the transactions that are required to be confidential remain that way in the transactions that a business that is part of a blockchain network engages in. The third component of trust that we think about in blockchain for business is privacy. The third component that we think about is security. I like to think about security as a feature that ensures that even if let me just take that back. The third component that we think about is security. So once you have privacy and accountability, security is about ensuring that if, in case there are members in the network who are not trustworthy, then you are still able to transact without fear that they would be able to cause breaches in the network. The IBM Hyperledger network ensures that we have implemented security features through the implementation of algorithms like crash and the Byzantine fault tolerance that ensures that even if you have bad actors, you're able to continue to operate safely and securely. Now, I would like to spend the rest of my presentation describing several examples that we are working on at IBM, along with our collaborators, that utilize this secure, private, and accountable network to be able to drive new ecosystems of trust. What I hope I'm able to convince you by the end of this conversation that blockchain is an interesting and useful ledger or network that ensures digital and business transactions, but the benefits that we're able to get from it is by ensuring that we can first convene ecosystems that can create business value for all the players. The first example I would like to share with you is one that we call KYC, or Know Your Customer, as many of you already know. And the KYC process today for corporate banking customers is handled by individual financial institutions, and this results in friction for all participants. For many of banks today, to onboard a corporate customer, they need anywhere between 5 to 100 documents, mostly in manual format. It takes anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks to onboard a customer, and costs around $600 for a single KYC. This amounts to anywhere between $50 to $350 million for a bank annually. This is not to mention the risk and reputational damage that could be caused by non-compliance. And if you look at it from a regulator perspective, they have informational challenges, and therefore their audits are actually post-mortem rather than being performed in real time. Now, what we've done at IBM is to collaborate with some corporate customers and some banks in Singapore to be able to develop a single integrated platform on a blockchain network where a KYC data is securely recorded and stored. How does this work? When you have a bank, a customer A, who's been onboarded to a particular bank, and now they want to go and access services from a second bank, instead of providing the new set of documents, the 5 to 100 perhaps manual documents that they would need to, they basically provide consent on this network that's powered by blockchain, and once they provide network consent, Bank B is able to access those documents almost immediately. What does this mean then? It means that for the customer who's looking to be onboarded into a new financial institution, they're able to do this close to instantly, enhancing their customer experience. For the bank B that's looking to acquire a new customer, the onboarding process is reduced from being 3 to 4 weeks to anywhere about a week or less, and the costs for onboarding go down by about 20% because of the reduction in duplication of data, and then the shrinkage in data gathering and looking at the processing because of the automation that we increase. Now, as you can already tell, the success of this integrated platform is, yes, because of blockchain, but the bigger story and what's more powerful for us at IBM is the realization that this only works because we are able to bring together a network or a new ecosystem of players that were before then not interacting in this way. And together, once you have created this network of regulators, financial institutions, you move from the one-to-one interactions that are previously or are happening today to a network where everyone has access to this KYC information. And once you have created that network, then blockchain serves the purpose of being able to bring to life and enable those interactions in a secure, a private, and an immutable ledger that is auditable. The second example I would like to share with you is one that we are working on in the mobility space. Now, before I go into the specifics of the example, I would like to highlight for you some changes, some fundamental changes that are happening in the automotive industry that are driving this move towards more collaboration. First is digitization. As you know, today we have cars that are fully controlled by software. And what this means is that we have more and more data that's being produced as cars or vehicles are moving around, as they're being created, etc. It also means that we have to be really careful, or we have to be able to guarantee the security and privacy of telematic data that's being generated in interactions between cars and other entities. The second part that's driving this move towards collaboration in the automotive industry is the move towards transport as a service. This is becoming more widespread because the economics around car ownership versus transport as a service means that we're going to see a bigger and more widespread adoption of car utilization as a service rather than ownership. So as we think about this, there's a new or an added trend that we're also seeing and hoping that we'll realize this in the next, or this will become more ubiquitous in the next 10 to 15 years. And this is self-driving cars. We know that these are the future. This is the future of transportation. Putting all of these three together means that we have to rethink how the transport or mobility ecosystem works. So think with me for a moment. In maybe 10 years, if you need to go to the movies and you're taking one of the self-driving cars, what will happen if you need to pay your parking? Do you want to go and pay your parking and then come and have the car drop you off at the movies? What I would like to do is for that car to be able to drop me off at the movies, find its way to the parking lot, pay whatever it needs to pay for parking, and then park itself. Now, that and many other transactions, we have to think about how to bring those transactions together as as we get into this new era, what we have done at IBM is to collaborate with UBS and one of the large car parts manufacturers in Germany, ZF, to be able to start to think about a transaction platform that can be able to facilitate mobility transactions seamlessly. And these mobility transactions could range anywhere from, parking, paying for toll, paying for fuel, any kind of mobility transaction you can think about. And we started this off by building a system where we can pay or enable payments of all kinds with any type of vendor automatically. So if you go back to my example about the self-driving car, it would mean that using this network, my self-driving car is now an entity that is represented in a blockchain network, and when it shows up at the parking lot, I don't need to have a different parking pass, I don't need to have a toll pass, I don't need to have a different fuel card. All of these things are integrated into a seamless payment, so that way this car is able to make all of those payments on its own. Now, why is this so revolutionary? I think about it as the ability to enable a car to perform transactions without human interventions as being critical for the new world in which we're going to find ourselves with regard to mobility. And I think about it as a beginning place for how we're going to be able to manage additional transactions that vehicles would essentially be involving. So moving from this current mobility system where you have cars interacting individually with each of the service providers to where they're all connected together in a blockchain network that ensures privacy, that ensures security, and most importantly, ensures that you're able to perform these transactions in a seamless manner that provides convenience for all of the participants. In the future, we hope that this system could be integrated to start to manage additional transactions and essentially the life cycle of a car. So starting from your bill of materials when you're manufacturing, being able to manage different software changes as you're going on through the life cycle of the car, and also being able to track parts, etc. So being able to combine all of these different parts of a car starts to create new opportunities for creation of value by many of the different players that were previously not interacting. The last example I would like to share with you is one on some work that we're doing in Kenya on retail finance. Small and medium-sized enterprises in emerging markets today have little to no access to credit. The reason for this is because there's a very thin file available around their business operations that would be available to a creditor or a financial institution that would be able to give them credit. On the other hand, they are interacting most of the time with distributors, with suppliers who are actually connected to much more formal financial systems and much more formal supply chains. Unfortunately, given that today the current retail finance means that each of these players interact independently, it means the data that a financial institution would require to be able to access or determine the creditworthiness of a retailer is not present or available to an institution. It also means that any distributor or retailer only has access to the information that pertains to the goods they're selling. Now, what we've done at IBM is to be able to rethink what that platform could look like, and we've developed a blockchain platform that connects a distributor or a supplier, the financial institution, and the retailer. And the idea behind this is that we're able to start to record the interactions between a distributor and the retailer as they're providing stock. And then we start to use that to provide that to the banks so that they can provide or make some risk assessments that would enable them to provide credit to the small and medium-sized enterprise. We've tested this today with a grocery producer who provides groceries to about 2,600 retailers in Nairobi, and our vision is to be able to move that from just this tripartite system where you have one distributor, one retailer, and a financial institution to one which is a network of suppliers who are providing stock to small and medium-sized enterprises, to many more financial institutions that can provide financial services, and then you can start to have or create a new level of information that can paint a picture of really the operations of a small and medium-sized enterprise. Now, in a situation where you're looking to bring that number of participants, the challenge is how you maintain confidentiality and privacy of data, the transactional data from between a retailer and a distributor, and still make sure that that data is available to a bank that can provide some risk assessments. We do this enabled by the blockchain Hyperledger network, and what this allows us is to be able to have data that is being generated from these transactions get anonymized or being used by the risk assessment, being used for risk assessment by the bank, while ensuring that we are not divulging business operations data that would be confidential for the company. As a result of this, we're able to now create new value for each of the different players that they previously had no access to. For the financial institution, they now are able to assess risk for small and medium-sized enterprises and therefore begin to provide credit. For the small and medium-sized enterprises, they are able to get access to credit so that they can build their businesses. And then for the distributor, they're able to have more sales, and perhaps more importantly for them, they're able to start to get visibility to the last mile of their supply chain. Now, we have many more examples that I would love to share with you that we're working on at IBM around this topic. But what I would really like to conclude my talk today with is to highlight some of the key lessons that we have learned from this exam, from our work in blockchain and the ecosystems that are decentralizing. The first point is that this shift from centralized to decentralized systems is just at the beginning, but we believe the benefits that it continues to confer, it's going to become more and more widespread. Blockchain technology, therefore, will continue to just be an enabler of this system by providing a way to transact in a secure, private, and accountable manner. What's more important, though, is that for us to even be able to utilize blockchain, we have to be able to convene these ecosystems that previously don't exist or that are previously disconnected so that we can start to reimagine and recreate business value in those ecosystems. And the value of collaboration could not be more important in this case. All the examples that I have shared with you today, the collaboration between the ecosystem players and technology partners like ourselves has been critical in us being able to develop solutions that would work for all of the different players, and also to be able to develop standards that would make sure that each of the players are able to interact and collaborate and transact in a decentralized manner, but one that is secure and acceptable for all of the different members. So I welcome you today to consider collaborating with us so that together we can start to reimagine when we convene different ecosystems, how we could make this work for businesses so that we're able to create new value. Thank you for your attention, and we welcome you to the IBM booth at DZ63 on my left so that we can share with you some of the live demos of the examples that I have shared with you today, but also so that we can start a conversation around how we could collaborate so that we can be able to create value together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another great session at Innotribe. A couple of quick housekeeping points for you. Firstly, you can see there's these columns on both of the sides and one at the back. They're there for rating each of the sessions. You'll find that there are some post-its on the table next to it. So if you're heading out, just pick up a post-it and just let us know how you felt the session went. The next session is at 3 o'clock. We've got a fantastic panel for you that's going to tackle that 800-pound elephant in the room. With these decentralized approaches, if trust is built into the network, what's the point of view? That's at 3 o'clock. Thanks very much.